gone over in our previous discussions, and let's bring new things to the table. If we are going to go into exempt session, it would be a good thing to decide now, but this is not going to be live streamed tonight because unfortunately the technology has not worked. But we haven't got... Oh, it's back on. So at the last minute, it is going to be. So in that case, do we go into... No.
Not.
Right, okay. Okay,
Chairperson, I think the idea is to at least start the meeting, and if members in the usual fashion, if you want to refer to any of the red papers, either from the original agenda or from the addendum papers that were issued today, if you could let us know, because at that point we will have to consider going into exempt session. But I think the intention is to start in open.
Perfect. And I do hope that everybody has read the latest papers because they did come quite late. Okay, so over to our leader then, please, to present.
Thank you, and apologies for the slight interregnum because I was failing to get the machine to work, so apologies for that. Okay, so as colleagues know, this is the reconvened meeting to discuss the Tropicana report that we adjourned from last time. Just to be clear, I'm withdrawing the recommendations which were tabled at the last meeting and replacing those with the new recommendations which are set out in the addendum paper B, which was circulated to members earlier today and published online. And the recommendations start from point 2B. So sorry that sounds a bit confusing, but it's paper B, and it's the recommendations that are set out at point 2, subsection B. I want to obviously just first off begin by acknowledging that the updated recommendations is a direct response to the debate and discussion that we had both at the last full council and then in the weeks that have intervened, and the many issues and questions that members have raised during those previous sessions, including through group leaders and via the re-established Tropicana member advisory group. And I would first off just like to thank group leaders and all members for engaging in really robust scrutiny and challenge on this, both during the council meeting and subsequently. It has been really helpful to see members engaged, reading the material, asking questions and challenging. I absolutely recognise the feedback, the anxiety and the risks associated with the approach for the Tropicana. And I absolutely have heard, and I think all colleagues have heard very clearly, the uncertainty that members feel and the desire to have as much information as possible in order to make an informed decision. I should say, as the one of the two ward members for the Tropicana, I absolutely feel this particularly acutely because we sit here not only with responsibilities for the whole of North Somerset, but also with responsibilities for our own residents. And I want to particularly thank the residents in my ward and those living on the seafront opposite the Tropicana who have always borne the greatest impacts and effects, good and ill, of living in a seaside town, for their interest, for their engagement and for their feedback. So to be clear, the purpose today is not to ask for a blank cheque. It's not to ask for an unconditional endorsement of the proposals around the Tropicana, but instead is to set out a clear pathway to move forward with this project, set out the key gateway decisions that members will need to be involved in, and then make sure that there is clear member oversight at every critical juncture. Now, as the Chair and the solicitors for the Council pointed out, I hope that we can have some general debate in public as I'm introducing this item, but members will need to go into confidential session to discuss some of the red paper items and the financial issues. I know that there are several members who do want to do that, so I hope when the Chair is satisfied that we've had sufficient general debate, we can move into closed session just to address those things. I'm just going to focus very quickly on what has changed since last time. So the report itself, in substance, the proposal in substance is not changed, but what is changed is that decision framework and how we're approaching it. So firstly, there is no immediate request for financial approval or for borrowing approval. So we're not asking members to endorse the finance plan, any changes to the capital programme or the borrowing requirements today. We are setting out that multiple stage gateway framework around decisions so that before irreversible commitments are made, such as the main construction contract, such as the finance plan, such as the detailed operational agreement, members have an opportunity to be consulted, to be informed, and then to be involved in the decision-making process. This also, of course, as set out in the conditions precedent in the agreement and in the decision-making pathway, enables the council and the operator the opportunity to walk away at any point from the arrangement if those conditions are not met. And that particularly relates, from our point of view, to the planning, licensing and funding arrangements. Fourthly, I think it's worth members noting that we have obviously made some progress in negotiation with the operator around potential use of a restoration levy on ticket sales, and there is information included in the update addendum about that, an opportunity which could generate some additional funding to be ring-fenced for the future long-term upkeep and structural maintenance of the Tropicana over the longer term. So very much the spirit of these recommendations is to maintain the momentum on the project, continue to progress to the next phase, but to do that with some sensible constraints and making sure that members are all involved and informed about the decision-making process going forward. Now, I think it's really important, and it's been clear from the debates and discussions that we've had, that there are lots of things we don't know the answers to at the moment. We don't know the detail of how the operational arrangements will work on an event day, what the scale and number of those events will be, and exactly what the detailed design for the Tropicana building will be, because we are not at that point in the process to be able to give final answers to that. But we can only get answers to some of those unknown issues if we press ahead with the further work needed to fully test the proposals and develop and agree those operational and financial plans. I've been in two minds about this project all the way through, and particularly in the light of some of the feedback that we have had from residents. But I do still believe that if we can make progress on the substantive points with the operator, this still has the capability to be a game-changing project for Weston-super-Mare. And I would remind colleagues that Weston-super-Mare will soon be the second largest settlement in the west of England and effectively a city by the sea. We're talking about a significant investment that can boost our economy, create jobs, and act as a magnet for further investment. So I think the responsible thing to do is to continue to develop this project and test it to see if we can make it work for Weston-super-Mare and North Somerset. But we do have a duty to get it right and to do the right things in the right order and the right way to minimise impacts on taxpayers, residents and businesses. And that is what these recommendations are about. So I hope colleagues will support maintaining momentum on this project with the conditions that are set out in the amended recommendations and enable officers and us all collectively with the community to move through the detail, understand what is proposed, see what's practical and what isn't, and then reach a final decision later in the year. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very well explained, I think, and we all completely understand where we are now. Do we have a seconder for the recommendation? Mark? Thank you very much. Are there any comments that people would like to make? I'm sure there are. Catherine?
Thank you. I did jot down some comments beforehand, but I'll try not to repeat things that have already been said by the leader. But I did want to signal my support for this proposal tonight because, as has been said, for me, this is about taking the next step and not signing a blank cheque or losing any control. And I'm really grateful to all the officers and colleagues for the and the discussion and the work they've put in to make sure that we all understood fully what was at stake here. And rightly, a lot of concerns have been raised over the last few months and these last weeks, I would say, about cost, governance and risk. And what I think the revised addendum, does respond to those concerns in a much clearer and structured way. The key point for me is this, that tonight's decision is about moving this project forward to the next stage while keeping the member oversight, as has been mentioned, and multiple decision points in place. The report makes clear that there are still several gateways ahead, including, of course, planning consent, finance plans, construction, contracts, and licensing. So, if circumstances change or the numbers no longer stack up, the Council still has opportunities to pause, challenge, or walk away. I think that's important because we all know that the Tropicana has huge potential. We've seen it, we've talked about the events that have been held there, and it holds a place in people's heart as part of the history of Weston-super-Mare. We also know residents expect us, though, to approach this really carefully and with responsibility. So I'm somewhat reassured that in the recommendations it's now explicitly stated that no approval is being given tonight for additional borrowing or any increase to the capital programme. Any future borrowing or major financial commitment has to come back to full council with updated figures, risk assessments, and professional financial advice. So this is exactly the sort of governance and accountability we expect on a project of this scale. I also welcome the strong emphasis on member engagement and the reactivation of the Tropicana member advisory group, as well as the consultation with group leaders. This continued involvement at each gateway will help to ensure that this remains transparent and properly scrutinised. And importantly, this is not just about events and entertainment. It's about securing that long-term future of a landmark building that really matters to this town. The proposed restoration levy is a good example of that. It creates a dedicated funding stream to support the upkeep and preservation of the building over the next 25 years, with the success of the venue helping to fund its own future maintenance. That's a practical and sensible approach for me. But none of us can pretend this is a project without risk. Any large regeneration project always has risk. But doing nothing carries continued risks of deterioration, missed economic opportunities, and another generation asking why the Tropicana was allowed to drift and collapse. I do believe this proposal gives us a balanced way forward, ambitious but with safeguards, commercially minded but still accountable. And that's why I'm supporting it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Helen?
Thanks, Chair. So ahead of our last meeting on the 21st of April, I had attended quite a few briefings on the Tropicana business case, and I asked a lot of questions at those briefings, along with sending huge amounts of emails to officers with questions, and I was reassured by the answers. But I am one of the councillors for Uphill Ward, which sort of, Mike's already mentioned the Tropicana's in Central Ward, but Uphill Ward's not that far away, and I have in previous times had residents contact me about noise and stuff coming off the beach, and I have had a few emails in the last week or so from residents, so I just want to sort of, I suppose, refer to some of their concerns, and they were mine initially. So I was disappointed that the larger indoor venue had been removed, because I did think that that was going to give us a greater ability to have all year round events, and I've certainly had that comment from residents. Similarly about the lack of the cafe, I think we're going to have to ensure that residents living nearby are really not detrimentally affected by noise, traffic and parking. And this may mean, for instance, that we look at bringing in residents-only parking areas for roads off the seafront or nearby, at least on event nights. This, for instance, happens around some football grounds on match days. And we may also need to look at park and ride. We'll definitely need to get trains and buses to run later and encourage as many people as possible to use public transport, walk or cycle. But I am reassured by the fact that the operator will be required to put a travel plan in place, and that many of the practicalities, including one resident has given me all the statistics on how many toilets you need per person attending, so that these practicalities will go through planning and licensing committees. So at the 21st of April meeting, I spoke in support of the project and selecting the preferred operator, and I've not changed my mind. The economic benefits for local businesses, our visitor economy, and the jobs that will be created directly and indirectly will be huge. And in my view, we cannot miss this opportunity. And the other options, as we can see from our papers, are also not without risk. It's been 14 years since the demolition of the building was stopped, and we have done a reasonably good job of running the Tropicana ourselves. But even I, who usually opposes the use of private companies to run public services, realise that a specialist operator is now needed. I think the people of Weston would not forgive us if we delayed action on the Tropicana yet again. And I think, as the leader has already pointed out, we're not actually voting on a done deal, but to do some further work on this, and there are a number of conditions that have to be met before both parties agree to sign the lease. And there are also now a number of decision gateways. I'm also reassured that the Tropicana Advisory Group, of which I will be a member, will meet regularly to monitor the project as it progresses up until 2028. And I am pleased to see that my suggestion of a venue restoration levy has been taken forward. But if we do go into exempt session, I will talk further about that. I will be voting in support of this report. As requested on the 21st of April by Councillor Porter, I would like a name vote on this report. And finally, again, I just want to thank our officers who have worked so hard on this, and I'm going to name Jenny Ford and Joe Drinkwater. Thanks.
Thanks, Helen. Bridget.
Thank you. At the last meeting, I felt as though the information presented to us did not clearly explain all the changes that were taking place, and that made it difficult for us to take a decision at that time, to take full responsibility and to complete our responsibilities in due diligence. However, I'm really delighted with the hard work that's taken place in the weeks since that meeting, and the way we've come together at this time, both in the weeks between and also tonight with the recommendations in front of us. So I feel that the process with which we are now being asked to make a decision is much clearer. The steps that we will be going through and the stages at which we will address the different concerns for both residents, economy, outstanding additional impacts on the wider community are clear at which stage they can all be made, how the role of licensing, how the role of planning will now be part of that process, and the clarity about how the scheme will go forward. So I really am grateful to all the officers who responded when we asked for a delay in this step, and I'm really pleased to be able to support what we've got in front of us, because all of us want to see a positive future for Weston, and all of us want to see a thriving venue that can bring lots of benefits to our area. So I'm really happy with where we've got to, and thank you very much for all the work that we've done to date, and looking for how we can move forward with partners in finding resolution in this contract negotiation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Bridget. James, did you want to say something? We weren't sure whether you put your hand up. No. Okay, so Terry Porter, please. Terry.
Well, thank you, Chair. I don't tend to go over anything that's been done before, but I really do want to thank the officers and the councillors that have been involved in the last month's work, because every councillor's had an opportunity to put feedback into there. They've listened to all what's been said, and I think now we've got a recommendation with a good positive way to go forward. It involves councillors and officers as well. So I supported it before, but I'm more than happy now to... I hope what we've got now is a recommendation that certainly the majority of the councillors can support. And well done to all those that have worked on this new one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Terry. Peter.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, as you know, I've been involved with the Tropicana for so many years, 38 years, I think, last count. I was very worried last time. However, yes, I congratulate all the work which has been done, because I think this allows us to take it forward to the next stage.
Brilliant, thank you. Annemieke.
Thank you very much. I was going to speak at the last meeting about this, but there were so many views being aired at the time, and I thought it probably wasn't worth adding mine to it at the time. I will be very brief because lots of people have already made really good comments about this particular proposal. As you all know, I'm not from Weston-super-Mare. I live about as far away from Weston-super-Mare as you can get, but I love the seafront here and I love the Tropicana. And I think what we have on the table now is something for me that is absolutely going to bring that area to life in a way that perhaps otherwise it wouldn't be. For me, the risk of doing nothing with the Tropicana far outweighs the risk of doing something. And while I understand that we still have hurdles to cross and there are still things that we have to determine and we have to check and double check, that is the right way of going about it. But for me, the risk of doing nothing is enormous. I think we lose on every front. We lose on the seafront. We lose as far as our residents are concerned. And what's really important to me is it would send a signal that we are not ambitious. And I think as a council and as a cabinet, we are ambitious. We are ambitious for Weston-super-Mare. We are ambitious for North Somerset. And for me, this project says an awful lot about how we feel. So I'm really pleased to be able to support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annemieke. Peter?
Thank you, Chairman. One very quick point, really, referring to the pink papers, which I know I shouldn't, but I'm sure if people look at the page 1 of the pink papers, they'll notice the 22nd of May is really ought to have been altered. The date on there. The other point, though, Chairman, I'm prepared to go along with this if we can, as I believe he did give the assurance, that this in no way expects any capital monies to be spent at this stage. Because I have got a very clear view from the people I've been speaking to in Portishead. Yes, they think it's a good scheme. Yes, they quite like the idea. But when you put priorities into practice, they do not think any more capital spend of North Somerset's money should be spent on the beach at Weston-super-Mare over and above that given by the grant. So if I can have the assurance that there's no capital involved at this stage, I will support.
And I saw the leader nod. Okay, so Ash, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I still have serious doubts about this scheme, actually, to be honest. I know the changes that have been made since last week or the week before, and I welcome those, but they are in danger of being little more than a sticking plaster and deferring a decision perhaps we should be thinking about tonight, because what it does is defers the decision to put in a capital subsidy of up to £6 million into this scheme. And what we're saying is that we're still open to that sort of level of subsidy into this scheme. And I think it's important to remember that just 3 months ago, we asked residents to fund extra council tax, and we put their council tax up by 9%. And at the same time, we closed libraries and we cut services. And we told them that those decisions were necessary because of the financial position of this council. If we are now saying we are open to a £6 million subsidy or capital, that raises seriously fundamental question of our credibility and how we prioritise things to me. If resources exist at this scale, so soon after we saw exceptional financial support and raising council tax above inflation, surely residents are entitled to ask whether we have our priorities right. Every pound we commit to the scheme, whether tonight or in 3 months or 6 months' time, must be paid for through higher taxes, deeper cuts, or by not funding something else. It has consequences. Now, in terms of tonight, my concern is that this project's a bit like a train about to leave the station. We will give it the go-ahead, and although there are stops scheduled along the way, sometimes trains are very difficult to stop, and as our Portishead members know, can get very expensive. Of course, I support the rejuvenation of the Tropicana, but not at the expense or risk of our core services that are really, really under pressure at the moment. The idea of cutting, for example, children's services while we underwrite commercial events in Tropicana do not sit comfortably with me. It's not about opposing the regeneration, it's about ensuring that we send a very clear signal to the operator and everyone else that there is no further public subsidy available for this project. I'm not seeing that at the moment. I would like to see that put forward, but I don't think it will. And I think because of that, I'm going to find it difficult to vote for this and will probably end up either abstaining or sadly voting against. Thank you.
Thank you, Ash. Tom?
Yes, so I'm a big supporter of this project. I'm young, and most young people my age are struggling to find things to do in the town. So I see the community benefits to this, I see the economic benefits to this, and I think that it's great to see that Weston is continuing to expand, and now that's kind of being reflected in the amenities that are being offered to us. I think I'm going to go for support. I think I reflect other people's views on that kind of, I want to make sure that we're not taking, spending money unwillingly, and we need to make sure that we are dealing with that properly. So what I will say is that I'm a bit disappointed that this level of detail wasn't provided to us in the last council, and I think that maybe, hopefully, we can take some learnings from this about how quickly we are to present reports to full council that aren't entirely, entirely informative for us as councillors to make the decisions, because it has had a bit of a negative effect on the outlook from residents on us as a council. So I'd just like to hope that maybe we can take some sort of learning from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, John?
Thank you, Chairman. I don't think I've sat in this chamber before and heard quite such effusive cross-party back-patting, aren't we wonderful, we're just going to solve the Tropicana problem. Sorry, get real. We're being sold something, we're being sold a dream, and we're all dreaming along in the hope that this redundant building will turn out to be the saviour of Weston-super-Mare. I'm sorry, we're being sold a pig and a poke on this one. Mike happily mentioned Weston-super-Mare as a city by the sea. And even that's been borrowed from Clough Williams-Ellis in 1947. That's how Weston was described as its future. And in those days, people were saying Weston has a real future in this sort of development. 1947, get real. This is hollow echoing. All the members here are claiming credit. We can all talk loosely about how wonderful it will be for young people. They all want it. Well, sorry, Tom, I know you're young, but how the hell do you know what all the young people want? Will they be able to afford to go in there for a start? I doubt that very much. This company is not known for its charitable disposition towards the entertainment world. It's full of hollow echoing. I know you're all going to wish it would work, and you're all going to say the right things because it sounds good on your manifestos when you stand up for election again. I'm in favour of supporting the Tropicana. Great. Who's going to oppose that? But here's my warning. It will come back to us, whatever we decide tonight, and it will fail, as every plan for the Tropicana since the pool closed has failed. And you know what? Each time we had a plan put forward by a big national company, it received support from consultants, that great growth industry. It received support from our officers, our financial officers, our planning officers. Every one of the schemes failed. Every one. I see no reason why I should stand up and say, this is the saviour of Weston-super-Mare. Mark my words. It will not be. It will fail.
Thank you. Sue.
This plan is to force common sense, and this was once a family seaside town.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sad. I'm just sad. And I have to say it. I'm sad.
Thank you. Sue.
Right. My turn. Right. The recent meetings and discussions have been very helpful, very useful, and the changes that we have seen since then have been welcomed. I was concerned about how the noise, the singing and everything else would affect the residents who live close to the seafront. As we know, of course, there are flats and everything there. And I am very pleased to note that during the recent discussions, and I raised this, this has been taken on board, and it is part of what has been looked at, and I hope will be agreed tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Stuart?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd like to thank Councillor Crockford-Hawley for his explanation of that, because that's exactly where I am. And not very often do we agree on certain things, but that we certainly do agree on. There is a lot to go through. I'm not going to micromanage it. I did say my piece on Thursday. I think that this is going to be a ball and chain of a financial loss to North Somerset Council, and the longer it continues, the worse it's going to get. I do want to go through some figures for people, because when I became a councillor, and at one of the group meetings when I was in a group, I did mention that it would be a very good thing to have like a LinkedIn page of what councillors have done and what their experiences are and what their expertise is. Now, I've organised events for 25 years. I've been a DPS and a premises supervisor for alcohol events up to 3,000 people. I just want to say this, and this is something for the leadership team. This deal is a typical promotional deal where the promoters want to have everything in their pocket. And what I mean by that is you can look this up for yourselves. You can find all this information I'm going to give you very quickly online. It's very simple, okay? So the estimated ticket sales that we've seen is 10,000 tickets, 3 times a week. The lowest estimate of the gross revenue is between 800,000 and 1.2 million pounds per event. Okay, the net estimated profit is very low on certain events, depending on who's singing. If you've got Beyonce, it's going to be a lot of money. If you've got the Wurzels, it's going to be probably a couple of £100. Okay, so the net profit estimate is between 100,000 and 400,000 profit per event. Okay, so as I say, it's highly dependent on the cost of the artist that's performing. There are additional revenue streams: food, drink, parking, bars. Is extremely high profitability on bars, up to 80%. And I can't talk about the restoration levy, but that is something that I am absolutely appalled at, to be honest. Whoever negotiated that really needs to go back to some sort of school. The overall weekly profit potential for this company is between 500,000 and £1 million. So how on earth can we, as a council, agree to subsidise this for the tune of £6 million? Why are we subsidising anything? Why are these people not taking this venue on, kitting it out? Like most leases, you have to go in and you have to outfit it or fit it out, and then run their events over this 25-year period and make sure that the council are, and the residents profit from it. The profits are astronomical. Okay, so that's one thing. I'd like to ask Mike Bell, please, if you don't mind, if a profit share was discussed at any stage. And I don't know if we can discuss that in open, Nick. Is that all right to discuss that or not? Unfortunately, some people work. I only got the papers at 4 o'clock today. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure there's a lot of people online that would like to know that question anyway. Maybe you can come back to me on it.
Okay, right. I think we'll take other comments before we go into any closed session.
Sorry, can I just finish?
Yes,
Chair,
of course.
Please? I've only got one more minute.
Not
one more minute.
About the money side.
Okay, one more minute. What I would like to say, and we know this is true, the fiscal advantages is going to be astronomical. There's no arguing over that fact. What I will say, the residents of Weston for years and years have been bleating on about having a Lido or a swimming pool. That's still what I'm seeing on social media. Everybody wants that. And we know it's very, very difficult to implement. But what I would say is that I did look at a business study for Waterworld in Stoke-on-Trent. It is smaller when you look at the land mass, and their profitability is up around the £2.2 million a year. So those sort of places do work. If we're going to be spending 6 million or subsidising 6 million, then really we should maybe consider spending that money on the Tropicana itself and getting it up to a level where it can be part of our portfolio and we run it. So that's what I'd like to say on the matter. But I certainly won't be supporting it.
Thank you for your comments. Right. Mike Bird next, please. Mike.
Thank you. Whilst other members have worries over the financial side of this project, mine are very practical, although they do have financial implications. The Tropicana would be a very unique venue, and I'd love for this to work. However, there are no other permanent large-scale venues situated on a beach to compare with. That in itself raises a lot of unanswered questions. To compare, the Live Nation Halifax Peace Hall is surrounded by a 3-storey building on every side. Dreamland in Margate is inland, sheltered by well-tree-lined railway embankment. Both venues have a main summer season of June, July and August only, with very little outside of that. Dreamland has just 16 events. The more sheltered Halifax Peace Hall has twice that at the same period. The Tropicana sits on a beach, exposed to a westerly wind off the Atlantic. Given climate change and the now unpredictable UK weather, the nearest of high tides, the cancellations of events could be regular. 32 events is not really feasible. Even 24 is over-optimistic. 16 will be more realistic, 12 after maybe a few cancellations. Financially, we need to look at the worst-case scenario, not the best. There's also the planning issue. Who's been to Glastonbury? How far from the main stage can you hear it, even from behind? Sound carries with the prevailing wind. This is a westerly wind which will carry sound straight towards the residential housing. So is planning permission even possible? Then there are questions over the 10,000 people every Saturday night over the summer months and the problems that causes in the town. I'd love to support this all the way, but there are many unanswered questions we need to answer before complete commitment. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And Mike Solomon next, the other Mike.
Yeah, I just want to take exception with a remark that Stuart made earlier. He said that the Wurzels would only charge £200. A friend of mine booked them the other day. They were £10,000 for a wedding. So,
right, you've been put to rights there. Mike Pryke, another Mike.
Thank you, Chair. I do have to agree. I do think the Wurzels would get at least 10,000 people in Weston-super-Mare, and I would like to be there as one of them. To Councillor Crockford-Hawley, I dare to dream as a young person. I dare to dream that this might be a success. Perhaps it's the naivety of youth, and I accept your many years of wisdom, but I dare to dream that perhaps we might just be getting this one right. We might just have the officers in place to get this right. We might just have the operator in place to get this right. And for those, and to Councillor Bird, who's very eloquently put some of the concerns, those of us here on my side have been talking about this for weeks. We have gone on a right journey. I can't begin to tell you what a journey that we have gone on in these last 3 weeks as a Conservative group. We still have those questions, but tonight I will be voting in favour because I choose to trust the Tropicana Working Group with those questions. I choose to trust our officers to answer those questions. And if they're not, and if the answers come back that aren't satisfactory, as has clearly been pointed out, there are steps where we can say, no, no more, let's jump off. And if that's the case, those of us here in the opposition will absolutely do that. But tonight, I choose to trust people.
Thank you, Mike. Right, well, I think that is going to close our comments. I think we've covered all bases, really, and I hope everybody's had their say because we know that for Weston and our district, this is a very important decision. So back to you, Leader. Would you like to make some closing remarks?
Yes, and I think it would be helpful once I've done that if we can have an indication of whether members do want to go into closed session or not, because I recognise there's a lot of public interest. So clearly, if we can avoid doing that, we should. But if members do want to have closed session, fair enough. we're all in members' hands. Lots of important points, many of which I agree with, and I thank those colleagues that have expressed support. There's just a few things that I would want to just quickly respond to. So firstly, Councillor Burden, you asked for that assurance around the capital spend. I mean, just to be crystal clear, the wording in the recommendations is that we are not approving any increase in the capital programme. We are not approving any increased borrowing requirement, and the finance plan, which needs more work for the reasons that Councillor Cartman actually alluded to very rightly, will have to come back to Council. And I am clear that if the finances don't stack up and are not in the interests of our taxpayers and this Council, then we absolutely don't approve it at that point. So I don't think there is any dissent on that issue. Several colleagues have made the points about noise impact. I agree with that as well. I feel that very strongly. There is more work that needs to be done to demonstrate that this is deliverable and practical and can be mitigated appropriately. Again, that is why we need to go through this process, and planning permission will need to be given. I think it's worth noting there is already planning consent, of course, extant for a 5,000 capacity venue on the seafront, and we have had a history of live music, but nevertheless, I completely agree with the points that Councillor Bird and Councillor Mason made. Again, we need to work through that, and if we can't get a satisfactory outcome, again, that can be a break point. And then I would just entirely agree with Councillor Pryke's comments. I don't think there is an easy right answer here. This is not straightforward, and we haven't got all of the information that we need at this point. But I do think that it is worth us continuing to try to land a solution. I hear the voice of experience from down the end, and I haven't got my Clough Williams-Ellis to hand to quote back to you, John, but I think we can sit here and be doom and gloom and say it will never work. Great, but that doesn't achieve anything. There's no next step, is there? There's no other plan on the table at the moment. I think it is incumbent on us to try and find a positive solution. That's what these recommendations are about. Is it perfect? Have we got all the answers? No. Should we continue to try and dare to dream? Gosh, I'm quoting the Leader of the Opposition. This is terrifying. I think we should, and I'm happy to stick to it. And then I'm happy to obviously see what the mood of members is in terms of whether they want to take the vote or whether we want to go into exempt session.
And just before you do that, Madam Chairman, the answer to Councillor Davies' point on profit share is in the original red papers for the 21st April meeting. You'll find the answer there.
Right. So, do we need to go into closed session?
Up for members. If you take an indication. If
Chairman, I propose we don't.
Right. Shall we vote then that we are not going to go into closed session so we can be absolutely sure that everybody agrees? So hands up if you would prefer not to go into closed session, and we'll take the vote. Right. I think that's carried, and I think we are absolutely sure then that we have given everybody their chance. Right. Now, Helen has requested that we have a named vote for this, and it was requested at our previous meeting as well. So we need 6 other people to support that. So do we have 6 other people that this is going to be a named vote? Okay, hands down. So we will have a named vote.
Members, I think you're familiar with the process, but I will call out in alphabetical order each member's name. If you could just respond for, that's the amended proposition that was moved by the leader at the start. So you're either for the proposition, against, or abstaining, please. First one is Councillor Applin. I don't believe he's with us tonight. Councillor Ashton is also given apologies for tonight. Councillor Bell.
For.
Councillor Bird.
For.
Councillor Blades. Councillor Bridger.
For.
Councillor Bryant. Councillor Burden. Councillor Caniford. Councillor Cartman.
Against.
Councillor Chard. Councillor Charles.
Against.
Councillor Clayton. Councillor Cole. Councillor Coles.
For.
Councillor Crew. Councillor Crockford-Hawley.
Against.
Councillor Cronolly.
For.
Councillor Daw. Councillor Dunn.
For.
Councillor Davies. Councillor Ellis. Councillor Gibbons.
For.
I've received apologies from Councillor Griggs. Councillor Harriott. Councillor Homaris. Councillor Holland.
Against.
Councillor Hunt.
For.
Councillor Keating. Councillor Mallion. Councillor Mason. Councillor Nicholson.
For.
Councillor Parker. Councillor Payne.
For.
Councillor Pepperell.
For.
Councillor Petty. Councillor Pilgrim is apologies. Councillor Porter.
For.
Councillor Pryke. Councillor Shopland is apologies, I believe. I haven't seen him attend. Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Snaden.
Against.
Councillor Solomon. Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor Thornton.
For.
Councillor Tristram.
For.
Councillor Tucker. Councillor Waite.
For.
And I have apologies from Councillor Whitfield and Councillor Williams. It's clearly carried. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You've done it already for me.
Right, so 34 people voted for, 3 abstained and 7 against. So that will be carried.
Thank you.
And I want to thank... Apologies, Claire, 6 against. Oh, 6 against. Have we double-checked that so we know, because it is named?
(34, 6, 3).
Okay. And I want to thank everybody for their patience and their diligence, because I do know how hard people have been working and trying to resolve the issues, because we all want what is best for our district. And I hope that we're together and working in partnership, that is what we will achieve. So my work is now done. And are we going to have a small adjournment now at this point? Or I think this, yeah. Before we reconvene for the next meeting, I think it would be wise for us just to have perhaps a 5-minute break. So I'll see you all in 5 minutes. Okay, this is our annual general meeting, so a little bit different to most meetings. And as usual, welcome to everybody. I think there is now somebody on Teams, and they can join in the meeting, but they will not be able to vote. So, the first business of the... do we have apologies? Sorry.
Chairperson, yes, I've had advance apologies from Councillors Ashton, Griggs, Pilgrim, Whitfield and Williams. And as we noted earlier, also not in attendance are Councillors Applin and Shopland. And our first item of today is to elect the chairperson of the council for the municipal year of 2026 to 2027. Can you believe that we're a quarter way through? It's amazing, isn't it, how quickly the century is flying by and how old some of us are getting as a result. Okay, so do we have a nomination, please, for the chair of the council? I see a hand over there. Nicola.
I would like to nominate the wonderful, hard-working, conscientious Councillor Carrot Charles, who I'm sure will do a fantastic job of keeping us all on our toes and keeping us all in line. Thank you.
Sounds a perfect person. Do we have a seconder? We do. In which case, and do we have a vote for this? So please, would everybody vote? And I think we're all going to raise our hands and welcome our new chair.
Thank you.
So, congratulations, Caritas. I hope you enjoy the role as much as I have. Probably more, actually. Thank you. Yes, thanks very much. Okay, I'll shake his hand.
Lovely.
Right, yes. Right. You take that. That's it. Take that. Right. Yeah, I'll be fine.
Great job.
Vice Chair. Oh dear, you're also going to regret this. Right, so cracking on next, I would like to express my thanks to Claire, particularly in my role as Vice Chair last year. She was extremely supportive, and I think she's been a fine ambassador for North Somerset in the roles that she's done. She has been a voice of fairness and a voice of compassion and kindness, and I thank her for her service for North Somerset. So if we could possibly show her appreciation.
And you have a past chairman's badge that you'll give to her later.
Okay, apparently I have a past chairman's badge to give to you, Claire, later.
Thank you.
There we go. So next item on the agenda is the appointment... Oh, sorry. Okay, would you like to address the meeting, Claire?
I feel I should give thanks to the people who deserve it, because I'm the least important person. So I would really like to offer thanks to all the officers and Mandy and Nick in particular, who sat by my side to ensure the council meetings ran smoothly. I really appreciated that. And also to my very hard-working group leader, Councillor Gibbons, who encouraged me to take on the role and accompanied me when my consort could not. And my consort, Richard Westwood, and his wife were also a great help to me. and they came with me to many events on many occasions when I was your representative at civic events. And I'd like to also thank all of those people I met on those occasions, because they really gave me a very kind and warm welcome. I know it is a great privilege to be chair of North Somerset Council, and the council have taken difficult decisions during my time as chair. And I hope always that we have acted in the best interest of our residents, and long may we continue to do so. So I leave you in the capable hands of Councillor Caritas Charles, and good luck to you, Caritas, and I know you're going to do a great job. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Mandy. Oh, my word.
Right, okay, so the next order of business is the appointment of the Vice Chairperson of the Council for the municipal year 2026 to 27. And can I ask for nominations, please? I see Councillor Petty.
I would like to nominate Councillor Dan Thomas, because I think he'll make an excellent Vice Chair. To you, Caritas.
Thank you. Do I see a seconder? Councillor Tristram. Can I see all those in favour? Carried. And welcome, Dan. I'm going to look forward to working with you. Okay, so we now move swiftly on to public participation. And we have 3 speakers, I believe, today. And the first one is Alison Parsons, who's a resident who'll be speaking on cycling in North Somerset. Alison, you're welcome, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm a leisure road cyclist, and I enjoy cycling around our local countryside. I'm also a car driver, and I live in an area with rural lanes. I'm here today to talk to you about my experience of cycling on rural roads and lanes, and my concerns about the further increase in traffic on those roads as a result of both more homes being built and the proposed airport expansion. Firstly, the vast majority of drivers are careful and courteous, but there's a minority who are not. And as a cyclist, you remember the incidents where a driver does not consider your safety. Obviously, a cyclist is much more vulnerable road user compared with a vehicle driver. While cycling, I have been driven at and forced off the road. I've been sworn at, and I've been physically threatened. I've had vehicles overtake me at speed with less than a foot clearance. Quite scary experiences. As a result, my partner and I now both ride cycle with front and rear video cameras. We both frequently upload video footage to Avon and Somerset Police. These uploads are mostly close passes, or overtaking a cyclist in an unsafe location, like a blind bend. For each video upload accepted by the police, the driver concerned will receive either a warning letter, penalty points, or a prosecution. My partner and I both have cases going to court where we are required as witnesses. I like to think that if just one warning letter from the police improves one person's driving, then it may save another cyclist from serious injury. There are roads we now actively avoid as we feel unsafe cycling and nearly always have incidents to upload. We know we are not alone in this. No matter whose fault an accident is, the cyclist is far more likely to come off being injured, and far more seriously. In 2025, my partner and I had a total of 177 uploads accepted by the police. We were away for about 2 months that year, so that's 17 positive reports over 10 months, an average of 17 incidents per month. We cycle on average about 6 hours a week. Some of these uploads report several vehicles in the same incident, but we don't duplicate our uploads if we're riding together. Some general statistics. 56% of the pedal cycle fatalities in 2024 occurred on rural roads, despite these roads only accounting for 31% of the traffic. Rural roads are significantly more dangerous in cycle fatalities per mile compared with urban roads. Traffic has definitely increased in our area in recent years, and any closure on main routes or more local routes results in heavy traffic on the narrow lanes, which can be very difficult for a cyclist to navigate. I must mention potholes and the road surface. There are a lot of potholes and many areas of poor surface and road edges. If a car hits a pothole, that generally...
You have 1 minute.
The worst damage is likely to be economic. If a cyclist hits a pothole, they could have a life-changing injury. Potholes are very difficult to see in the shade under trees and high hedges. We're aware that additional housing has to be built and the airport wants to significantly expand. Plans for new developments always seem to mention travelling by foot or cycling will be encouraged. However, that's just the immediate area. You don't look at the rural lanes beyond. I give an example, Netherton Grange on the edge of Nailsea. The traffic on the narrow lanes just beyond the housing estate has increased significantly. Finally, what can you do about this? Consider a much wider area of roads and routes when considering the impact of new developments on local traffic. Be realistic, whether those journeys will be car or bike or foot. Give a higher priority to repairing our rural roads and lanes with cyclists in mind. Not just the potholes, but the awful edges. Slow traffic down.
I'm afraid your time's up. I'm so sorry.
Can I just...
I'll allow it this
National
one.
speed limit on most lanes, and that includes single-track sections. Thank you for listening. I hope hearing my experience will give you food for thought.
Thank you, and I apologise for stopping you there. That's a very pertinent point. Thank you so much for coming to speak to us this evening. So next up we have Paul Howe, who's a resident who will be talking about pedestrian safety in Weston-super-Mare High Street. And Paul, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chair, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, thank you first for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Paul Howe. I'm a local resident and organiser of the community campaign Keep Weston High Street Safe. This is not an anti-cycling campaign, and it is not party political. It is a community safety campaign based on one simple principle: a pedestrian zone should be safe and feel safe for pedestrians. At the moment, many residents feel that this is not the case. Through a recent Freedom of Information request to Avon and Somerset Police, we now know that between 2020 and 2025, there were 93 recorded collisions involving e-bikes and bikes within the high street. These incidents resulted in 44 recorded slight injuries and 5 recorded serious injuries. This means this issue is no longer anecdotal. The evidence now exists. Residents continue to report near misses involving e-bikes and bikes travelling silently, often at speed, through pedestrian areas. Many of the concerns involve older residents, disabled people, parents with pushchairs, shoppers and visitors to the town. One of the clearest examples of the problem is the signage itself. At the entrance of the High Street here, there is just only a very small no cycling sign, roughly 10 centimetres in diameter, positioned several feet above the ground under a notice, a CCTV notice. Campaigners believe that other access points have no clearly visible no cycling signs at all. However, I'm pleased to say that recent police activity in the town centre has been welcomed, and has already made a noticeable difference. Correspondence from the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner confirms that Avon and Somerset Police are aware of the issue and are carrying out targeted patrols and enforcement activity. That's encouraging. However, residents remain concerned that temporary enforcement alone may not create lasting behavioural changes unless followed by consistent deterrence over time. What the campaign is asking for is practical and proportionate. Clear signage at the entrances to the pedestrian zone. Continued partnership working between the council and the police. And consistent but proportionate enforcement and public awareness measures. The campaign is growing because people care deeply about our town centre. Local businesses, cafes, charity shops and community volunteers are supporting our campaign, and residents continue to sign petitions and share their concerns. Ultimately, this is about whether people can walk through Western High Street safely and confidently. We should not wait for a tragedy before taking lasting action. And I would respectfully ask this council to continue supporting efforts to improve safety, signage, enforcement and public awareness within our pedestrian zone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I ask Sophia Milford, who's a resident, to talk about Great Western Railway and reduction of direct trains from Paddington to Weston-super-Mare? Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Perfect, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sophia from Langford, Churchill. This has been an eye-opening experience, to say the least, I have to admit, being first-hand in one of these rooms. Well, thank you all for the opportunity to hold the room and address you today. Apologies, I don't have paper. My printer decided not to print, but there we go. It's 2026, so it's fine. Right, so the problem that I want to talk to you about today is that Great Western Railway has removed all direct trains from London to Weston-super-Mare between the hours of 5 p.m. and 6:30 p.m., which precisely, as you know, is when peak hour commuters from our villages need them. These are the people that are working in London, like myself. I'm not alone. And actually forces people to either travel earlier, take indirect routes by Bristol at in top to 45 minutes, or abandon the rail entirely, which is completely backwards in my view. But there's also another problem to this, and it's affordability. The peak fares on this route average £120 to £200 per return if you're not booking in advance, which is expensive, and is comparable to driving costs when you factor in fuel, parking, maintenance, and depreciation. To add to this as well, I would probably, can I ask some, I'm speaking.
I'll add on time.
Can I make an observation? I know it's time, but I've noticed a lot of people disrespecting other speakers, and I think that's a lack of common decency, really. Okay. We also have poor weekend connections between Bath, Bristol and Weston-super-Mare, and unnecessary 10-minute stops in Bristol on existing direct services that inflate journey times beyond 2 hours. So why does this matter? Rail is 5 times more carbon efficient than driving. We all know that. and yet we're making it less convenient and more expensive at the times that people need it the most. European countries like Germany, France, Spain, Switzerland, you name it, treat regional rail as essential infrastructure with affordable, frequent, reliable services, and we are moving backwards. So what's happening now? Well, I've raised this with my local MP, Tessa Munt, who has committed to writing to GWR, and she's escalating to the Rail Minister. Councillors Bridger and Griggs have also pledged support to this cause. So what I'm asking you to do today, North Somerset Council can take 3 simple concrete steps. First, let's write formally to GWR, demanding they restore the 5 and 6:30 direct services to Weston-super-Mare, and ask them what assessment they've made of commuter impact at Yatton, Nelsey, Well and Weston-super-Mare sections of the train. Second, I would like to ask your support for a campaign to improve weekend connectivity between Bath, Bristol and Weston, and if the Tropicana goes ahead, I tell you that will benefit that too. So, double whammy with that one. Third, if GWR response is unsatisfactory, escalate jointly with us to the Office of Rail and Road, which regulates franchises and can hold them accountable. Now, with the news of GWR being renationalised, one can hope that this will improve the experience for commuters and for our communities. And we are at the centre of decisions regarding rail services in the region. But for now, I ask of all of you to commit to write to GWR by the end of May, so direct trains can be reinstated during peak times and wait times are reduced or removed altogether at the Bristol stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I believe that concludes public participation for this evening. I am now looking for declarations of or disclosures of pecuniary interest. Do I have any? I see none. And we have minutes are not available because we've only just concluded the last meeting. So we'll have to look at those at a subsequent meeting. And I believe I hand over to Nick now for the Council's Constitution 2026.
Thank you, Chair. Members will know that the Constitution is available on the website. I'm not bringing to you any suggestions for changes at this meeting, but there will be a report to your July meeting because the government is introducing compulsory changes to your constitutions affecting council planning decisions, both the process and what can go to P&R. So I will be bringing that, and we'll also be bringing updates to contract standing orders and FinRegs at that point. So there will be a report and hopefully debate on your constitution at your next meeting.
Thank you, Nick. The next thing is to look at political balance, leaders and deputy leaders of the political groups for the municipal year 26 to 27, and I hand back over to Nick.
Thank you. So we had a change of political balance at the last meeting, and it hasn't changed again. So the political balance going into the next municipal year is Conservative Party and Independent Group 14, Liberal Democrat and Independent Group 12, Labour Group 10, Green Group 8, Portishead Independent Group 4, and Reform UK Group 2. Group leaders and deputy leaders, I have had notice of a change in the Conservative Party and Independent Group leaders. The new leader will be Michael Pryke and the deputy leader will be Councillor Peter Crewe. All the other groups have not changed. So Lib Dems and Independents is Mike Bell and Gemma Coles. Labour is Catherine Gibbons and James Clayton. Green is Bridget Petty and Joe Tristram. Portishead Independent, Roger Whitfield and Nicola Holland. And Reform UK is Stuart Davies and Andy Coles. So the only change, as I say, is to the Conservative Independent Group.
I have received a request from the Conservative and Independent Group to briefly address Council, which I have granted, so I'll hand over to the leader, Councillor Pryke.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I think you've given me an upgrade. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for opposition politics in this council chamber. And before I look ahead, I wanted to pay tribute to my predecessor, Councillor Ashton. Nigel, to us, has dedicated years of his life to serving North Somerset. He led this authority over a decade during some of the most difficult periods local government has faced in modern times. Took many a difficult decision, defended the council's interests for many years against financial pressure from Westminster, and never lost sight of the importance of strong local leadership. And whatever our political differences that we may have, Nigel understood something fundamental, that councils exist to get things done. He believes, and still does, that local government should be ambitious, visible, prepared to fight for its communities. And that legacy deserves recognition. I thank him sincerely for his service to North Somerset and as being leader of our group for many, many years. Colleagues, tribute alone, however, is not enough. Because residents across North Somerset are increasingly asking very simple questions. Who is speaking for us? Who is standing up for towns and villages that feel ignored? Who is prepared to offer that serious alternative? From today, the answer is this new look Conservative group. Because the politics of quiet decline, managerial excuses and lowered expectations has gone on for too long. People are frustrated. They see roads deteriorating while infrastructure promises...
You are verging onto a political announcement. This is not what we agreed, Councillor.
It's close. Too often we see a council that explains problems rather than solve them, which will... One of the reasons that I wanted to stand for this leadership was to be able to change that. One of the things that I'm looking forward to doing is a new approach to scrutiny and governance. As too long, scrutiny can just often feel like it's a procedural thing. You know, reports can be noted, concerns will be logged, and meetings will be held. Under that, I've instructed my opposition colleagues that we will become sharper and tougher within our scrutiny. And the first set of changes to that is my announcement that we will be bringing forth a shadow cabinet for North Somerset Council. Mirroring the portfolios of the cabinet itself, I've asked my colleagues that they will work with residents, businesses, parish councils and communities to make sure that we can offer a serious alternative to North Somerset. When I called Mike to say what had gone on in our group, I think I used the words that we would be a constructive friend to the administration. We've seen today where we've agreed on the parts about the Tropicana, but there will be also points where we, I'm sure, will disagree. I thank my colleagues for the honour of making me their leader. I look forward to the next year.
Thank you. And just to clarify for the minutes, I refer to you as leader of the Conservative group. And I apologise for any mistake, Mike, there. Okay, the next is the... yes, appointment of cabinet and committees. So I believe that would be Councillor Bell. Councillor Bell.
Thank you very much. It's really pleasing to see that after 7 years in opposition, the Conservatives are awake and with us. So we look forward to a constructive relationship. I say awake, I mean, some of them aren't, but you've sensibly put them on the back row, so you're okay. So I'm happy to update on the Cabinet and the proposed committee chairs for the policy and scrutiny committees. So just to confirm, there is one change to the Cabinet. So Councillor Steve Bridger will be coming into the Cabinet and Councillor Mike Solomon leaving the Cabinet. I'll be circulating a revised portfolios, but there'll be a little bit of a shift around in the portfolio responsibilities of Councillor Caniford and Councillor Bridger, and I'll circulate details of those. But Councillor Caniford will be Cabinet Member for Sustainable Places, and Councillor Bridger will be Cabinet Member for Digital, AI and Service Transformation. And I want to take the opportunity to thank Councillor Solomon for his hard work and dedication over the last 7 years in the Cabinet. He's been an excellent colleague, good-humoured, as we heard in the debate, well, mostly good-humoured, as we heard earlier in the debate on the Tropicana. And I hope that he can look back on some great achievements over the 7 years that he has been a cabinet member in the administration. But that leads me on to the second change, which is that I'm pleased to say that Councillor Solomon has agreed to become chair of the Corporate Assets, Transport and Environmental Services Policy and Scrutiny Committee. And that's the only proposed change in the lineup of policy committee chairs. So again, we'll circulate the note afterwards, but there is no change to those proposed. And just to say, as per in previous municipal years, it will be down to committees to elect their own vice chairpersons at their first meeting. Kate, thank you.
I have been informed that we need a vote to approve this. So can I see all those in favour? That's clearly carried. Any against, just for abstentions? No. Okay, thank you. And we now go to appointments to outside bodies. Is this you, Nick? Okay, over to Nick.
So members, with the papers were circulated the current appointments on outside bodies, and where we knew of proposed changes, those were coloured green. One further one that we missed, I'm afraid, was Councillor Thornton is listed for local access forum, whereas in fact that is a replacement and will be taken over by Councillor Harriott. Other than those, I would just ask group leaders to notify any other changes to me in the normal way.
A question, Chairman. It's a little body that's hardly ever mentioned, but goes back a very long time, actually set up by the previous Chief Executive of Woodspring District Council, and that is because of the concern of the Severn Estuary with its planning, with its policy and its flood risk. And I believe that should actually be represented by an executive member or their deputy. I can understand executive members can't go to everywhere, but I think SCOSLA, Chairman, really should be an executive member appointment.
Would you like to reply, Mike?
I'm just going to say I've noted that feedback. I will have a conversation with the relevant members and feedback to you.
Okay, I believe we need to vote on this as well. No, we don't, just noted. Okay. Municipal calendar, is that just for noting? Any points or observations?
Yes, you take a formal vote, but it's there for people and has been. Obviously, you've had advance notice of that to put in your diaries for a number of months now.
Okay, can I formal vote then? All those in favour?
Thank you.
Clearly carried. I'll just take against for the record. Abstentions, none. Okay, thank you very much. We now move on to the meat and bones of the meeting, report on outcomes of West of England Combined Authority consultation, and I move to the leader of the council, Mike Bell, to present.
Thank you, Caritas. And I should have said when I introduced my comments earlier, congratulations. It's great to have you in the job. Okay, so this is the West of England Combined Authority expansion consultation and proposal. So the report asks Council to consider the outcome of the consultation report and then to endorse the recommendations moving forward with the devolution proposal. So at its heart, this decision is about North Somerset choosing to shape its own future. Our residents and businesses already live and work across a wider regional economy. People travel to work, study, trade, visit hospitals, use transport links and build supply chains across boundaries that do not stop neatly at the council border. So the question is whether North Somerset is fully represented when decisions about that wider region are made. Membership of WECA gives us a stronger voice, a vote and a direct role in shaping the investment decisions that affect our communities. The consultation, as with all consultations, did not receive an overwhelming response, and I think we've talked previously in council about what more we can do as a council and what WECA can do to encourage stronger community engagement and awareness of our activities. However, the 1,275 consultation responses were received, with 700 of those from North Somerset postcodes, and there was support across the board and from within North Somerset, albeit relatively narrow, for us to progress with membership of WECA and the expansion of WECA. I think it's worth noting that many colleagues and some residents have quoted the last consultation to me for about 10 years about how it sent a clear message that people were not supportive, and we did get around 10 times more people taking part this time than we did last time. So give whatever weight you want to the consultation feedback, but we've clearly made some progress in encouraging people to engage in that process. Obviously, the consultation was advisory, it wasn't a referendum, but I think on balance it does show support for the proposals. The report sets out some of the things that people reflected on for their support. So they talked about the importance of better regional collaboration, stronger transport and infrastructure planning, access to funding and investment, and a stronger voice with government. And I think that membership does give us a better chance of securing improved transport links, access to skills programs and funding, housing infrastructure, investment in the climate emergency in our environment, and regeneration funding. It also puts us in a much better place to argue for buses and transport networks, as we actually heard from our public speakers earlier, that properly connect people to jobs and in education, and access some of that critical infrastructure funding that we know is going to be so key to deliver our local plan and growth and a sustainable future for our towns and villages. For businesses, we heard from a number of businesses, big and small, about the importance of being part of a larger economic platform with stronger access to regional investment, the skills funding, the growth programmes, and that louder voice in terms of attracting international and national inward investment. Businesses told us time and again that they compete and trade regionally, nationally and internationally, and they want to be on that bigger, wider stage, and for North Somerset to have a strong voice at the table in those conversations. And I think members just need to reflect that when the likes of Business West, the Federation of Small Businesses, Bristol Port, Bristol Airport, Western College, and many others are supportive of this approach, then we need to listen and think about that. It's good for jobs, it's good for skills, and it's good for growth. It's not about giving up North Somerset's identity. One of the things we heard a lot from residents was about, is this a return to Avon? It's a similar geography, and that's where the parallels end. It's not about giving up North Somerset's identity. It's not about recreating Avon. We will still be here. North Somerset will still be here. We will still make local decisions, but we will also have the ability to influence the wider decisions that already affect us, but which at the moment we're not involved in. We also heard through the consultation that residents and businesses were worried about local accountability, about how North Somerset's voice within that wider regional body would be reflected, what it meant for finances, and obviously the risk of increased bureaucracy. And I think it's important that the report isn't dismissing those concerns, but is trying to set out, inspired by some of the ideas that the chair brought to the previous council, about how we can take practical steps to respond to them, including strengthening our scrutiny arrangements, regular updates through WECA, better engagement with residents, and a real commitment to ensure that North Somerset's interests and diversity is represented clearly and consistently. We do also have to recognise the wider national context. Government policy under previous governments and this government is moving strongly towards strategic authorities and mayoral-led models, with funding and powers flowing through those structures. We have no choice but to engage with that programme and deal with the world the way it is, and that's the way it is. Membership will give us a formal seat at the table. We'll be part of those processes, and we can try and shape the future of devolution to suit the interests of our community. My view is very clear. Our residents and our businesses are better served by North Somerset being inside the room with a vote, making the case for our communities, rather than outside the room hoping to be heard. And I hope members will support these proposals. We'll get support from our colleagues across the west of England, and the government will take action to bring us into membership of the combined authority, and then hopefully in partnership together we can continue to strengthen our relationships and grow into the future. Thank you.
So I see that as moving, you are moving the report, yes. Do I see a seconder? Thank you. I see Councillor Gibbons. And do I see anybody who wishes to speak? Okay. I saw you, Peter, first, and then...
Thank you, Chairman. This actually gives me no pleasure at all, but I think we are wrong if we go down this route. I conducted a small survey in my own ward. I delivered 1,000 leaflets. I got 7 emails back, all telling me, in their view, it was a bad idea. Chairman, the statistics given in the report we've got before us are absolutely irrelevant. If I'd have put forward a statistical argument like that to my supervisors in Canterbury, I'd have been laughed out of the building. So, let's get it straight. We are doing, or we are being asked to do, what the Treasury are instructing us to do. I don't like that. I think local government should be about local choices. There used to be quite a reasonable working together agreement on the demise of Avon, which was shattered by the setting up of the mayoral authority. And the setting up of that authority is, in my view, a disaster. It is far too small. I was involved in strategic planning and transport in Avon and at the demise of Avon, and learnt one thing. If you're talking about strategic planning, you're talking about employment planning, or you're talking about transport, you really should talk about the Bristol travel to work area. Unless you're talking about Swindon, Gloucester, or Taunton, it's a waste of time. Chairman, I've had quite a lot to do with family and friends in some of the northern regions. And you just look, the Leeds region, the man promoted to be our next Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, the area he's managing is vast. Avon is a tin pot little area which can just be kept under control by central government. I don't believe we should be involved, Chairman. If I saw any aspirations from the other members or the Mayor to expand on what we've already got, to make the area bigger, I would change my mind. But at this stage, Chairman, I just don't see it. I think it is a backward step involving more politicians. And if the answer is more politicians, in my view, it's the wrong question. So the only part of this resolution I could go along with is 4, because I agree totally with Caritas that we really need to improve general involvement of the public. But as far as following the Treasury by voting for something, I know we're going to be forced to do it, but just because government are going to force me to do something doesn't mean I support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn.
Thank you. I don't believe our area is tin pot, but I am going to speak to some of the same questions, actually. Mike, you mentioned the consultations response rates were low and extremely close. I think of our 200,000 or so residents there who responded, we've got 357 in favour, 321 opposed, and a handful unsure. So my questions are, as you noted, this isn't a big positive mandate. It's much closer to a coin flip in terms of the consultation. How can we recognise that in the language we use going forward? And secondly, I see Helen Godwin's Instagram reels all the time. I think WECA must have a really nice big social media and comms budget. So I'm wondering if we can request WECA put some of that to good use in North Somerset, engage really honestly and constructively with our region. There's clearly some apprehension and uncertainty about WECA. So how can we request that they put some of that money to good use down here? Thank you.
Thank you. I see Councillor Cartman next.
Thank you, Chair. I was reflecting on fake news earlier, and what this is appears to me as a fake vote. We are labouring under the illusion that we have control in this situation because it's called devolution. But my understanding of the situation is if we will face 2 questions, don't we? Do we want to join a strategic authority? And if so, would we want to look north or south? Well, my understanding is if we said no, we don't, the government will say, yes, you do. And my understanding is if we chose south, they'd say, look north. And it's a very strange definition of devolution where we don't take the decision, but residents may still hold us accountable. And I think it's quite important that we say to our residents, this is not our decision, whether we agree with it or not, and I'm actually more minded to agree. It is a government decision, and government should take responsibility for it. And on that basis, I'm going to abstain, because I think it's not a decision for this chamber. If they give us the power to make the decision, I will then vote.
Thank you. I see Councillor Dorr and then Councillor Petty. Councillor Dorr.
Yes, I mean, I'm quite sceptical of WECA. I understand the situation that we're in, but I believe that devolution is giving more power to local people, not less. And what I think we do need to remember is that WECA is currently still in special measures because they haven't always been the best of the combined authorities. But albeit, we can be stronger in numbers, and it makes sense to be on the table when decisions about mass transit and economics are being made, especially when they've got to include places like Bristol Airport and the ports. I hope our voice can improve WECA for the better of our residents. If the government's going to force us into this, it'd be better to join our own terms, but I do strongly believe that residents need to have more say on what that improvement looks like, because while us as a council will see more financial gain possibly from us joining WECA, it's our residents and our small businesses that use their services. I was earlier today just using the Growth Hub. They have very, very important services to help our local communities. And I just don't think we've reached out to enough people to get their opinions or to get their opinions on what it looks like for us to join WECA. And with 50 people in a room that don't have all of the the experiences that our residents do and possibly use all the services that they would need to use. So I think it's really important that we do engage better with the residents and just understand what it looks like for us to get on, because if we get on, we do need to improve WECA. It is not the best of local authority of combined authorities, and I want to know what that looks like, not just from us but from our residents.
Could I raise a point of information, because WECA was taken out of special measures last year, just to be clear?
Councillor Petty.
I think a number of councillors have made really good points, and just as Councillor Dorr had just said, along with others, the language being used by the government with regards to changes in how decision-making and how local government funding is being delivered is critical in what's taking place today, because we are being asked to vote. However, as others have said, while we are being offered a vote, it doesn't really feel like a choice. So I think that it's fair to say that many of us who have been in the chamber for a number of years have continued to see the hollowing out of our council services, and that we have had less and less funding, especially from central government, with regards to meeting the needs of our communities and our residents. And I'm confident that all of us are here to try to deliver change for our residents and make North Somerset a better place. What this government is doing is calling something devolution. What I want to see is local votes and local decision-making and local money in local hands to make a positive future for North Somerset residents. What I see in front of us is WECA receiving the likely bulk of the money in the years ahead. We have not been in WECA, and therefore North Somerset residents have lost out. I want the best future for our residents, for our businesses, and therefore joining WECA is the only trick in town. I echo what others have said about being sceptical about some of the decision-making and the processes in WECA in the past couple of years. But I want to join to make it better, as others have said. So I am supportive of joining, not because we have lots of choices, but because this is the way we get more services for our communities. And I do agree that strategic decision-making with regards to transport, with regards to climate change, with regards to economic growth or economic development, all is tied to our largest urban areas, and that is Bristol. And being an area together, we can promote positive change, positive strategic transport, And therefore, that's why I am supportive of this. However, to say that this is good democracy or good decision-making, I think it's flawed, and I think it is that we are being forced into a situation that this government is telling us this is the way they're going to hand out the money, and we will be letting our residents down if we don't choose to participate. Thank you.
Okay, I see Annemieke next. You're next.
Thank you. I have always thought it was a capital mistake to not join WECA in the first place. Absolutely. I just do not understand how that decision was taken at the time when it was taken. I've always been in favour of this. I think there are so many things for us to gain by being in WECA. And I just don't even know why we're having this argument. I do understand the process that people are concerned with. I think the process of being told that actually this is what the government want, that doesn't sound like democracy. But I'm going to gloss over that because we don't have a choice here. Not really. And I just want to make the case for being in WECA irrespective of the process. So I've been a councillor and a cabinet member now for 3 years, and I just looked because I'm a bit of a nerd. I keep all sorts of information that I think is really useful. In the last 3 years, I've had 510 emails from WECA telling me how they were going to dish out the money on all sorts of areas, whether it's skills development, whether it's transport, whether it's environmental projects, whether it's green technologies, whether it's renovation of homes and making them retrofit ready. 510 emails. Now, if you think that every email is one bit of money, no. Every email has loads of pots of money in it. And none of that money has come to us here in North Somerset. So what are we talking about here? You know, we can stay out and we can be stubborn and say, no, we don't really want this. This isn't going to be helpful for us. And we would be looking at that money being spent elsewhere, not here in North Somerset. We are going into this agreement a poor relation because we didn't join when we should have. So I am all for this. I know it doesn't feel like democracy, but I want us to realise what we are going to get out of being in. You know, being in there means we have a say in the decisions that we make. I sit on 2 of the WECA boards at the moment. I am involved in the Planning, Housing and Regeneration Board, and I also sit on the Environment Advisory Board, which Mike chairs. And I can tell you that we have really big decisions to make in those meetings, but we don't actually have a vote. We can go and we can tell them what we think, but ultimately at the moment, the decisions about all sorts of stuff like that, even though it affects us, is not made by us. I want a vote. I want a voice and a vote when I go to those meetings so that I can actually represent our communities properly and make sure that when the money is spent, some of that funding comes to us where it should be, where it always should have been. So, you know, be stubborn and be worried about Avon as was. It's all in the past. I came to this country when Avon had just been disbanded. I don't know what Avon did wrong. I don't really care what it did wrong because from 1990, we've not been in that world. This is a new world where the government wants this to happen, where we want this to happen, and where we want that money to come to North Somerset. I'm for it, and I really hope that all my colleagues will follow in my views and actually vote for it later on. It would be a tragedy if we don't.
Okay, I see Councillor Dorr, and if you wish to speak again, can you, if you wish to speak, can you indicate? Otherwise, I'll move to summate. Councillor Dorr.
Yes, I was just clarifying because Kieran called me out on some false information I gave, which was that, yes, the West of England Combined Authority is not currently in special measures, but due to it being in special measures and being given a best value notice, it currently does not have full mayoral authority. So, you know, this is because in the past there was disruptive relations. So I think we need to make sure that, you know, if we are going into this authority, we do have the best way that we can to, you know, provide our voice and ensure that, you know, our residents are being spoken to. But I do want to vote for this.
Okay, I've had notification of Catherine, then Helen, and then James.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to speak, and then I'd written notes, and people had said it all, so I thought I wasn't going to speak. And I just thought I wanted to kind of follow on from what my colleague Annemieke is saying. I too sit on 2 of the boards, and I attend the joint committee. And I see some of the great work that's going on. You know, the child poverty strategy, the culture and growth strategies, and I attend the meetings and I try to engage, but it's disappointing to know that I don't have a vote, and most of our residents are not going to be benefiting from it. We get small amounts of money. You know, we've got money through the Youth Guarantee Programme and the Trailblazer, and we're doing good work with that, but we are not getting as much as the other authorities, and I feel that loss for our young people strongly. The other thing I just wanted to highlight, for those of you who were there, that at the recent meeting of our Youth Parliament, this was the subject, and there was great presentation from our officers, which they paid enormous attention to. I know Councillor Tristram was there, Councillor Bell as well, and a lot of discussion, some really interesting questions came up, but young people voted overwhelmingly that this was the best option for them and their future, because, like most of us, they already operate regionally. You know, they don't think about those boundaries. They think that, you know, maybe they're working through Western College, which delivers so many programs throughout the Weka area. They travel regularly across the area. They hope to work in other parts of the Weka area. They don't think about those boundaries. And I think they also don't worry, as I don't, about the loss of identity for North Somerset, because I have got more confidence and more ambition in North Somerset than that, to feel that by joining Weka we are going to somehow disappear. We are joining as equal partners with a great deal to bring, and we will be expanding the combined authority with, I think, advantages for us, but also advantages on their side as well. As Councillor Bell mentioned, we have key organisations within our boundaries, the airport, the port, and not least Western College, one of our great educational institutions that's working across the region. So I think we've got a lot to be proud of. We're not going to lose our identity. We are going to join and make something better by our presence. That's why I'll be supporting it.
Councillor Thornton.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to respond to Annemiek's question about how she couldn't understand why we didn't join in the first place, and it's a very good point to make. I can tell you why we didn't join, because the then council leader, Nigel Ashton, who the new Tory leader praised earlier, did not want to give up his power. And that was the main reason we didn't join. That is the reason. As a trade unionist at the time, I was involved. I worked for the council at the time. I was involved in some of the meetings.
Can we not have conversations across the floor like that? Carry on, Helen.
Very clear that he didn't want to give up his power. So that's the answer to that question. Just in terms of what you said, Tom, about mayoral relations, my understanding is they're so much better now. So much better now with Helen Godwin and the leaders of the different local authorities. I think our leader has estimated, or I think he said at one point, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, that over the years we haven't been in Weka, we've lost £50 million in funding. So absolutely brilliant speech, Annemieke, completely agree with you. I support this.
Can I just say to the Chamber, I understand people's opinions, but what I don't accept is people talking across each other or conversations going on. So if you disagree with your colleague, then raise your hand and say it, please. Thank you. Next, we have Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Chairman. Although I understand in relation to council tax that as a local authority we are responsible for setting that council tax and that council tax to be spent within North Somerset, I just think it's important for the people that are watching this that they have a clear understanding, or if my concerns are that they may start worrying about council tax going up, or Weka dictating the council tax. But is there any chance in the future, if joining WECA could result in extra council tax for residents to go to WECA. I don't know how it worked in the days of Avon, I wasn't about, but I just think it's important to sort of clear that issue up of whether or not, you know, sometime in the future we could be forced to produce any more council tax for WECA funds.
Thank you. I see Mike making notes there. Councillor Pepperell, you're next.
Just briefly, paragraph 318, the proposal for NSC to join WECA is supported in principle by the Mayor of the Combined Authority. I thought that gave me a bit of a chill. I thought, what conditions are they going to put up?
Thank you. Do I see anyone else to speak? Okay, I'll move to Councillor Bell to summate.
Thank you very much. Lots of really good points and, you know, maybe one or two not so good points. I'll try and respond where it's appropriate and helpful to do so. I don't know that it is very helpful to look back on the decision that was made a decade ago. You know, the world's moved on, and we can't just keep refighting the same battles from 10 years ago. I hear what Councillor Burden says about his view being that the Combined Authority is too small. I think it feels a bit illogical if your big objection is it's too small, but you're against expanding it. Seems a bit inconsistent to me. And just to say to you, absolutely, there is appetite from other partners to become part of the Combined Authority. Certainly, Gloucestershire is very interested in joining the Combined Authority. So I think growth in the future is very likely, because I think there's broad recognition that the strategic level decisions do need to be made at that broader geographic footprint. So I think you're right, and this is another step in that direction. Mike, Councillor Dunn, you're absolutely right. You know, the figures are in there because we've done a consultation and we're reporting what's happened. Nobody is saying this is an amazing mandate for change. What it is it's a sample, just like Councillor Burden's got his sample of 7 residents from his area. Great, that's useful. I don't disregard it, but we can't read too much into it, can we? The key thing is how can we do more and how can we do better? I know you've got a lot of experience in this area, and let's work together, as has the chair, to try and challenge WECA and ourselves to do better and engage people more, because my reading of the consultation is that most people probably don't care or don't know enough about it to engage. We have got to fix that. One thing I can say about the current mayor is that Helen is definitely very keen to come and do social media and videos and all of that. So if our ask to her is come and do more so that we can engage and communicate, she'll definitely be up for that. So I think we're pushing it an open door on that. Councillor Cartman, you know, I completely agree with everything that you said. It doesn't change the facts, though, does it? What we might wish to be and how we would wish the decisions to be made isn't what's presented to us at the moment. The government has just passed a new Devolution Act. It's the law of the land. The law says we have to pass resolutions to say that we want the government to consider expansion, and then they will make the decision. That's what the law says. You know, we can either do it and make progress, or we can say, humph, we don't much like the laws. I think our job is to deal with it as is and try and make progress. Tom, North Somerset has lots to be sceptical about, I think, and WECA has lots that it needs to work on. I think I would agree with that. Nobody who is active in politics in this country and in public life in this country can think we've got it all fixed, because we definitely haven't. We've got more work to do, but I think you're right, better in and trying to shape that and pushing for improvements, absolutely. Bridget, I agree with. Annemieke, absolutely. Catherine, Helen, you know, loads of good points. Totally agree with you. Just on that point that James raised, so in terms of this proposal, it costs us nothing. We don't pay anything. There's no membership fee to be part of the Combined Authority. We won't be putting council tax up. There is no mayoral council tax No such thing exists in WECA at the moment, but what it does do is the money that has been alluded to by several colleagues that we have been locked out of, and I'm sorry guys, but locked out of because of the decisions of half the people over there in the Conservative group for the last decade, we will get our hands on. And that's going to be positive. That's a win for North Somerset. That is a better outcomes for our community, for our young people, and for the future of our area. And then lastly, Marcia, why is it caveated with the Mayor says in principle? Well, because we've all got to go through a process. We've got to vote tonight. The Mayor and the leaders will take a vote at the WECA committee meeting in a couple of weeks. Our other unitary authorities are being asked to agree. But what we have built together is a strong relationship and a strong partnership across the west of England, where I hope our communities and our councils play to their strengths, try and get stuff done, like the Portishead rail line, which we've delivered. It's been talked about. It is being delivered as a result of the strong work that this council has done and the partnership with the combined authority. We could be doing much, much more of that if we make the right decision now and get on with it, and I encourage colleagues to do so.
Thank you. I will now move to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? And abstentions? That is clearly carried. This is a very momentous decision for this chamber, and I'm very happy that Mike will take the principle of many voices forward, and in my role as chair, as first citizen of North Somerset, as they say, can I also be assured that he will take those concerns of those in favour and those against to the committee. Thank you. Okay, moving swiftly on, we now have question time. Can I see indications of questions, please? Please give us a moment. Okay, if you haven't indicated that you want a question, can you do so? Did you get Kieran? Did you get Kieran?
Well done, Nick.
Okay, there we go. So we now have first question from Councillor Bryant. Councillor Bryant, you're first.
Chairman, I have a question for the leader, Councillor Mike Bell. Mike, I have a couple of questions for you, after which I have a proposal to put to members. The background information for this is that 6 years ago, prior to employees working from home 4 days a week, the situation referenced to council was as follows. Councillors could turn up at the council offices during working hours to meet and greet with officers to discuss issues, take advice, and come to sensible decisions for the good of the general public. Hence, meeting physically with officers, phoning and emails sent back and forth was the norm. That has now gone. Contact is by email only, and officers have 10 working days to respond to any member of the general public requesting information. Now, surprisingly, the same time span exists for us councillors. Just ponder on that for one moment. We councillors were elected by the general public and are ultimately responsible for all decisions made by this council. Does that sound right to you? Council meetings are held 6 times a year, and prior to COVID, all directors or their deputies were expected to be in attendance to answer questions and respond to queries from the rank and file councillors in attendance, myself being one of them. Look around you. The CEO is in attendance, and Nick Brain, the solicitor. That's a pathetic turnout, and we councillors... No rejection against those 2 officers, other than they're the only ones in attendance. There's not. There's 3 or 4 more over there. Consider elderly people who do not or cannot email. How on earth do they make contact? Because there is no central desk. There are between 1,700 and 1,800 people that work for this authority, and elderly people cannot make any form of contact. Surely that needs looking into. It is essential directors must have PAs who can respond immediately to emails from councillors saying they will forward the information to the appropriate officer who will respond as soon as possible. I'll give you the name of one conscientious PA officer, Jane Krassos, who answers on behalf of the CEO immediately. She is quite brilliant. Thank you, Jane. The questions I put for you, Mike, are as follows. Questions for you, Mike, are as follows. Can you suggest how in this modern world we live in, can officers respond promptly to councillors in order to speed up the current process, ensuring PAs act more diligently? Your thoughts on this matter would be appreciated.
Okay, Mike.
Second, can you ensure that in future directors or their deputies attend all council meetings?
Cheeky 2 questions there, but I'll allow it. Mike.
Okay, so thank you, Peter.
Specsavers are up.
So I think that there are processes in place which, in general terms, work absolutely fine. So for most members of the public, for most councillors, if you engage and you ask for information, you get replies within a reasonable time frame. So I don't believe that there's a fundamental problem. However, if members are concerned, or if older members are finding it difficult to manage the processes that do exist, we're all happy to hear that and try and find solutions. So genuinely, I'm really happy to hear your views about how we could do it differently. And if there are ways that we can improve the response times or make it easier, we will absolutely look to do that. Nobody wants to do anything other than to support and enable councillors to do their jobs. There's no reason to try and frustrate that. So happy to have that conversation with you. Secondly, I would point out that contrary to what you said in your question, our senior leadership team are here tonight. So we have actually, I don't know if you've noticed, there are more than 2 people on the top platform. But actually, you've asked a very legitimate question, because I'm not sure whether I do think they should all be here, actually, because some of my colleagues may well be diligently working away whilst they're listening to our debate. But I would ask the question, and I'll invite Mandy to consider this in the future, whether they need to be here and whether there are better things that they could be doing with their time. Because I think the most important thing is to maximise the effectiveness of our officers and make sure they're delivering for residents. So that's not about being there all the time at the beck and call of members waiting to answer emails immediately. It's about prioritising and getting stuff done. But that said, I'm really happy to have a conversation with you and any other colleague about how we can do things differently to improve those communication channels.
No, it's question time, not a debate time. If you wish to submit it as for debate for the following meeting, then please do. Okay, I have Councillor Smith next.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations for the first meeting. Originally, it was a question for Councillor Solomon, but I believe I'll direct it to Councillor Caniford under car parks and sustainable places. The Salthouse Fields car park has a long-standing antisocial behaviour nuisance. If you're the right person under the new reshuffle, could you develop options to try and fix this, please?
Yeah, of course I will. If you'd like to email me with the issues you've been suffering so I can catch up on the things I've been asked to pick up on, and I can either pop up and see you and we'll have a look and we'll try and get some action in place.
Okay, Councillor Mason, you're next. Did you indicate? You did not. Okay, I've got you down on my list. I will go to Councillor Burden, who did indicate. There you go.
Thank you, Chairman. A question to Hugh, the Executive Member for Transport. Just wondering if he'd use his good offices to intervene to stop a problem that might occur. A while ago, your predecessor entered into various discussions with councillors and other people in Portishead about the poor state of the bus shelters. Now, an agreement was reached where I believe local people would be responsible for cleaning them and taking a certain amount of small revenue from advertising on them. And I believe a certain officer is now objecting to this process and might cause trouble. Can I ask you to just check that everything is going as was agreed by your predecessor?
Thank you, Peter. Can you email me, Peter, and I'll make sure it's looked at. Thank you.
Yes, and can I also remind people to, if you haven't submitted the questions, can you also email the questions as well for the minutes? Thank you. Okay, next on my list, I have Councillor Pryke. Councillor Pryke.
Thank you, Chair. This would be a question to the Cabinet Member for Adult Social Services, but as he is unavailable, I suppose this will have to go to the leader, and I appreciate you may not have the necessary detail on this. Adult social care costs continue to place significant pressure on the Council's finances, with rising demand and workforce challenges and complexity of the care needs affecting North Somerset. Over the last couple of years, we've noticed that is the budget that seems to be ballooning most within the Council, and I'm just wondering what specific reforms the administration has to introduce to tackle the rising cost.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you're absolutely right. I mean, social care, not just for adults, but also for children, has been under immense pressure for a decade. We've all seen, I'm sure, the graph of doom that is widely shared in local government circles, where the cost of providing adults and children's services ultimately exceeds all the budget that we've got available for everything. And despite the supposed action of successive governments to try and tackle this and reform the system, we're not seeing a fix to that. So fundamentally, all we can try to do is to manage our resources prudently and appropriately. So you'll know that we've got the Transformation Programme and the Transformation Programme Board, which is looking at areas where we've got high spend pressures and how we can manage those demand pressures more effectively. We're driving forward that programme very ambitiously, learning from good practice from elsewhere in the country, and we will do what we can. But we are hamstrung by the legal responsibilities that we have for social care and the funding that we're given by government to provide that social care. So what we do also need all parties to be supportive of is, urgent reform of the social care system. The government has set up the Casey review to look at it. It's going to take years to come back with reform proposals. We have got an urgent problem that needs to be fixed today, and I am very keen to work cross-party for us to make that case to government, because without those reforms, we just don't have the tools to fix those issues ourselves.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Cartman's next.
Thank you, Chair. My question's for Councillor Waite, if I can, please. Yes, hello. I just want to talk about my trip to the Tip in Backwell, if I can. So you might want to take this one away. But I've been clearing out, so I've been 3 times in a short period of time. And I want to talk about the booking system, which we were told would be easy to use, good for residents, a transformation activity to save money and help recycling rates. Each time I've got there, there's been a lovely gentleman on the gate checking car registration plates. And it strikes me that with what we've done, potentially, this is what I want you to have a look at, is create a job or take someone off recycling activity to check car registration numbers to solve a problem that didn't really exist at Backwell, and I can't speak for Portishead or Weston. Would you please have a look at this? And if it is the case, change it. And if it's not the case, we need to carry on. But I'm very worried we're actually spending more money than if we hadn't even done it.
Thank you very much. I've had quite a lot of feedback about the booking system as it is. I don't know what your experience was, apart from the fact that you think somebody was checking your number plate. But we have done a survey amongst all users over the last few months, and they have been incredibly positive. So people do really like the booking system. I only last weekend, an elderly person in my own community came back and said, gosh, I've been to the Tip for the first time. And actually they're so helpful because they have time to deal with every individual person that now comes. And that might seem like a weird thing for us to be happy about, but actually it improves our recycling quality. because it means that the staff who are now helping people with their recycling actually make sure that everything goes in the right place, and the quality of our recycling has gone up considerably. I do take your point about the checking of the number plates, and I will take that one back and I will come back to you about that. But I think it is worth saying that actually overall the introduction of the booking system has been incredibly positive with residents who use the service. Thank you.
Ash, I believe you wanted to come back quickly.
Supplementary, it's more about the cost. I think it is easy to use, I get that, but 3 people across 3 sites, say 25 grand a year, we're talking with on-cost, £100,000 a year of extra cost on the council. I don't think that's what we intended.
I agree that's not what we're intending, but I'm never going to be short of an opportunity to say that something we've done is actually done really well. So, residents do love it despite the things that they said about it before. And I just think this is a public forum, and I think it's worth making this point quite clearly so that those people who do watch actually understand that the responses have been very positive. But I take your point, that is not what we intended, and we will look into that. Thank you.
Can I take the liberty of asking a quick question on that issue myself that comes from my wife, which is with regards to the booking in system. If you've got a North Somerset account, it already holds your data, but when you are making bookings, such as things for tip, you have to enter that data all over again, and whether that is efficient or not.
I'm sure that is something that we can look into. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Kieran, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. My question's for the Cabinet Member for Highways. Unfortunately, he's behind me, so I'm going to stare this way into the TV. So for a long time, there's been continued pressure around Airport Roundabout due to more traffic, closure of Winstoke Bridge, various reasons. And this causes challenges for residents of Western Village to get out of the out around the Airport Roundabout and A370. And we've long advocated for something to be done about it. And I know that the council started to look at some traffic modelling and data with the aim of seeing if there can be some type of temporary traffic lights or what have you. Can you give an update to me on what has happened to that and what, if there is, an outcome?
Yeah, thank you, Kieran. Yes, there has been modelling done. In fact, extensive modelling has been done. At the moment, the results of that are showing that there would be no, no improvement on the existing situation with either temporary lights or permanent lights. That doesn't mean that the team are not continuing to look at things that they can do, and they will be continuing to look at the current lights from further afield and their frequencies and timings at the moment to see if that can improve flow, particularly at peak times. Of course, we are also aware that the Winstoke Road Bridge is a major contributor to the problems at that roundabout. That's a problem that is going to go on for some considerable while, but it is a problem that remains temporary and will go away in the end. But I can assure you the team are continuing to look at what any further mitigations they can introduce that will increase that traffic flow, particularly at Airport Roundabout.
Thank you. Last call for any questions. No? Oh, I have one. Okay, Tom, and then I see Gemma as well. So, Tom.
Hello, yes. I wasn't really sure whether this goes to planning or highways, as it's regarding Bristol Airport and their application, but it was just around the fact that I believe in the A38 MRN scheme, we have the airport roundabout being proposed for redevelopment to increase traffic capabilities. And then in the most recent application that's come to us, they're then yet again massively changing the roundabout. I'm wondering kind of what processes there are instead of us doing huge amounts of work to a roundabout and causing 2 years of delays for residents, for it then to come back and if an application is approved or denied, but for it then to come again a couple of years later, for them to redo the whole roundabout again and cause another 2 years of delays and miseries to drivers. And I'm just wondering, who do you speak to about that and what level? Is that a planning issue? Is that a highways issue? How, as a council, do we communicate from one application to the other application to try and, minimise the disruption to residents?
Go on, Mike.
Well, as that cuts across several different things, perhaps it's helpful if I step in. Really good point. We can absolutely ask officers about the sequencing of some of these things. Clearly, in this particular case, we've got funding for a programme of works which is going to be implemented in the next 12 months. We've got a planning application for future growth, which is currently only an application and has not been approved. Even if it is approved, it could be 15 years before they actually do any of it. So I think it's not the case that something will be done now and then a couple of years later someone will be coming back and doing something differently. But I'm happy for us to take that away to officers, and we'll get that fed back to you around the sequencing of some of those things.
Thanks, Mike. Gemma, you've got a question?
Yeah, I think you must have thought I was Sue earlier. So this is a question for Jenna. I've had a number of residents contact me about concerns when they've been told that dental practices were accepting new NHS patients and then paying an NHS charge and then finding out that the treatment they need would only be available privately. I was hoping to ask that you would raise this as an issue with BNSSG and the ICB, because I think that the residents need clear and honest information about what NHS actually is.
Thank you, Councillor Coles, for your question. I think that's a really good point. I know a number of colleagues have also been, Councillor Thornton in particular, have also been very vociferous in campaigning also for better and clearer communication with in relation to the dental industry. So absolutely, I am very happy to do that.
Okay, is there anybody I've missed? I can't see anybody. Okay, thank you all for your questions. And we are now moving on to petitions. There are none. And forward plan leader to present.
Just for noting, Chair.
Thank you. And we now go to announcements. I do have a few words to say. First, I'd like to thank you for the faith you've put in me this evening. And I just have a few short words on how I wish to conduct this year. It is a role as Chair of North Somerset with a long history and an important responsibility at the centre of local democracy. The Chair is responsible for presiding over full council meetings, helping to ensure debate is fair, respectful and properly conducted across all political groups, as well as representing North Somerset at civic and community events across the district. For me, though, this role is also about something bigger, protecting and improving public voice. At a time when trust in politics can feel increasingly fragile, I believe local democracy must work harder to listen to people, involve communities meaningfully, and make residents feel their voices genuinely matter. Councils are at their best when people feel heard, respected, and connected to the decisions affecting their lives. While the Chair must remain politically neutral when carrying out the role, I hope to use the position to encourage openness, respectful discussion, stronger community involvement, and greater participation in council life across North Somerset. This is not something I take lightly, and I am genuinely grateful for the support and kindness that you have shown me. I am acutely aware that I am Chair in an election year, and that there is going to be the cut and thrust of debate, and that is to be expected. What I will expect people to do is to challenge, and rightly so, people on their policies and what they want to put forward, emotions that they want to put forward. But what I would like to raise, particularly pertinent in this Mental Health Week, is that it never gets personal. It never gets about the person, it's always about the ideas. And I know that you respect that, but I want to give advance warning. That is one thing I will come down quite heavy on. Thank you all. That's all I've got to say. Oh, sorry, I forgot to add. I will not wear the chains in meetings, but I will wear them for events. And I respect the symbolism that they have for things such as remembrance, where they play a very vital role. So I shall respect that, but I will not wear them in the chamber. Thank you very much for your time, and yeah, let's have a good year. Okay, now we've got the leaders' announcements.
Nothing from me, Chair, thank you.
And Chief Executive announcements. Okay, any urgent business? There is none. And so that just leaves me to close. Thank you for being gentle with me, and good night.